Africa's moment of truth, seizing agency in a multipolar world. It's a pivotal moment for Africa. As global power shifts and the old rules of international politics crumble, our continent stands at a crossroads. Will we be mere spectators in this new multipolar world, or will we rise as a united force, shaping our own destiny? This is the question that brings us together here in Addis Ababa, the beating heart of African diplomacy and the birthplace of our continental union. This city, witness to countless pivotal moments in Africa's history, provides the perfect backdrop for this crucial conversation. Just days ago, a convoy of trucks and cargo planes departed Ethiopia, carrying not just goods but the weight of a continent's aspirations. These vehicles, bound for Kenya, Somalia, and South Africa, were laden with coffee, fruits, and processed foods, marking the inaugural trade under the African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA. A humble beginning, perhaps, but one brimming with symbolism. Those trucks and planes carried more than merchandise. They carried the promise of a continent trading with itself, investing in its own potential, and believing in its collective strength. This gathering aims to amplify this very promise: African agency, solidarity, and cooperation as the cornerstones of our rising global influence. But here's where it gets challenging. We find ourselves in a world where power is no longer concentrated in the hands of a few. The Cold War's bipolarity, akin to the dominance of Barcelona and Real Madrid in La Liga, has given way to a multipolar reality, more like the fiercely competitive English Premier League. Several powers, both major and middle, vie for influence, forming fleeting alliances and engaging in pragmatic transactions. This complex landscape, characterized by economic, technological, and military competition, demands a new playbook for Africa. And this is the part most people miss. The old normative frameworks, national doctrines, and multilateral institutions seem increasingly ineffective in this shifting terrain. So, how should Africa navigate this new world order? What opportunities and risks does multipolarity present for our continent? Is there space for collective action, or will we witness another scramble for Africa? These are the questions that demand our urgent attention and deep reflection. If Africa is to co-author the evolving global order, we must be acutely aware of this new reality and its far-reaching implications. The African Union's recent accession to the G20 is a testament to the world's recognition that Africa's voice is indispensable in addressing global challenges, from equitable growth to climate resilience. Yet, mere participation is not enough. Our challenge now is to transform presence into influence, and influence into tangible benefits for our people. Ethiopia believes the key lies in a synergistic unity of purpose, institutional strength, and shared prosperity. Our continental frameworks, the African Union, regional economic communities, and the AfCFTA, provide the necessary tools. The challenge is to make them work in harmony and effectively. Regional organizations like IGAD, ICAWERS, and SADC must serve as the operational engines driving continental integration. When these regional blocs align seamlessly with the AU Commission and the AfCFTA Secretariat, Africa can speak with one voice, whether in trade negotiations, peace initiatives, or shaping global norms. Ethiopia's experience in the Horn of Africa underscores that regional cooperation is not optional but essential. We are working with our neighbors to expand cross-border infrastructure, trade corridors, and power interconnections, embodying the principle of interdependence that should guide our actions. Reforming global governance structures is another critical pillar of our collective aspiration. Institutions established 8 decades ago no longer reflect today's realities. The United Nations Security Council, for instance, must include full permanent African representation, not as a privilege, but as a matter of fairness. Africa contributes significantly to peacekeeping, bears the brunt of global instability, and deserves a meaningful voice in global decision-making. Similarly, the international financial architecture must be overhauled to reflect our economic realities. Ethiopia supports the establishment of a regional credit rating agency that accurately captures the dynamism of African economies, free from outdated perceptions. We also advocate for reforms that expand access to development finance, climate adaptation resources, and debt restructuring mechanisms, enabling countries to invest in their future. Peace and prosperity are inextricably linked. Africa's security challenges cannot be outsourced. They require African-led solutions that prioritize prevention, dialogue, and regional solidarity. Ethiopia remains committed to the African peace and security architecture and efforts to secure predictable financing for peace operations. However, Africa's influence will not be defined solely by political and economic factors. Our culture, creativity, and people will also shape our global standing. From music to innovation, from fashion to technology, Africa's youth are redefining global perceptions of our continent. This soft power, the power of ideas and identity, must be an integral part of our foreign policy. By telling our own stories, in our own voices, we will secure our rightful place in the global discourse. The world is watching Africa with renewed interest. The question is no longer whether Africa matters, but how Africa will choose to lead. From AfCFTA trucks crossing our borders to the African Union seat at the G20 table, from our peace missions to our green energy ambitions, every initiative signals a continent asserting its voice and shaping its destiny. Yet, let us not forget that progress is not linear, and challenges remain. Our rise should not be a fleeting phenomenon or a transient illusion built on fashionable platitudes. We are still far from the Africa we envision, and the African century remains a distant dream. To achieve it, we must think long-term, laying the foundations for a future where Africa not only has influence but a decisive impact. Demographic trends suggest that the 22nd century could indeed be the African century. But for this to become a reality, the choices we make today, the commitments we undertake, and the priorities we adopt will be decisive. Preserving our sovereignty over our resources and channeling the energy and dynamism of our youth into constructive and productive directions are among the paramount duties of our generation. Ethiopia stands ready to collaborate with all African nations and our international partners to ensure that this moment of possibility becomes a sustained era of progress. The future we seek, one of dignity, solidarity, and prosperity, depends on how we deploy our collective capacity as a continent with bold strategic foresight. Now, I turn to you. Do you believe Africa can truly unite and assert its agency in this multipolar world? What role should regional organizations play in driving continental integration? And how can we ensure that Africa's soft power becomes a dominant force in global affairs? Let's spark a conversation and shape the narrative together.